Hey everyone, this is Turd Flinging Monkey. One of the subjects that I haven't been happy with myself in the way that I've explained it is the difference between a patriarchy and traditionalism. And the reason why is traditionalism is used different ways by different people. When religious conservatives talk about traditionalism, they're usually talking about what I would call a soft patriarchy. This is what you might see from Islam or something. However, when you talk to Western Christians, they have a very gynocentric view of traditionalism. In order to differentiate the soft patriarchy kind of traditionalism from the gynocentric traditionalism, I've referred to the soft patriarchy as a soft patriarchy, and I've referred to the gynocentric traditionalism as simply traditionalism. However, the word traditionalism isn't widely used, and I've always had trouble trying to explain succinctly exactly why gynocentric traditionalism is simply another side of the coin of feminism. It's just as gynocentric, it's just as anti-male. Because what I see is you have these traditional women, these anti-feminist women in the men's rights movement, in the anti-feminist/skeptic community, and they are just as bad as feminism. They are the other side of the coin. They don't call themselves feminists. In fact, it gets pointed out all the time that the label of feminism is unpopular. But that doesn't matter. Labels don't matter. The gynocentrism is what matters. So someone shared a very old video from Prager University called Feminism 2.0. And it really encapsulates exactly what traditionalism is, exactly why it's gynocentric and anti-male, and why these men's rights activists and anti-feminists who think that these women somehow agree with them are deluded. You, as an anti-feminist, anti-gynocentric, men's rights, whatever the label is, it doesn't matter. You think these women are on your side. You're merely an ally of convenience. Your only common enemy is third-wave feminism. They're still gynocentric as hell, and I'll prove it. So here's a video from Prager University. Now I've done a video from Prager University before, so this is going to be my second response video. So here we go.
I want to talk to you about a new feminism for the 21st century. There are three pillars to this new feminism: dignity, the word no, and men. That's right, men. But before I expound on these three ideas, you need to know something about me. I was very involved in the feminist movement, including being on the board of directors of the National Organization for Women.
And she lays out exactly what her qualifications are. She is an ardent second-wave feminist. In fact, she was on the board of the National Organization for Women. This is clearly not a woman who stood in the way of anything second-wave feminism accomplished, such as no-fault divorce and everything else. Everything that stripped away a man's authority in relationships, took away all the protections he had in a divorce to make sure that all the cards were stacked in the woman's favor. This woman was wholly on board and fighting on the front lines for those reforms to protect women at the expense of men. But she's anti-feminist, as you'll soon see.
For this I feel much pride and some guilt. Pride because feminism has pushed forward some very important and needed changes, and guilt because it has also done a lot of damage.
Feminism, particularly first and second wave feminism, allowed women to enjoy the privileges that were commonly afforded to men, but without any of the responsibility. Now I believe, and I've talked about this many times, responsibility and authority must go hand in hand in order to have a functional society. When you separate those two, you have dysfunction, dystopia, and eventual collapse. And that is what feminism has accomplished. At no point, whether first or second wave feminism, were women given the responsibility commensurate with the rights they were demanding. They were simply given the rights, and men were stuck with the responsibilities, as they always have had the responsibilities. And when you give people equal rights, but lay the responsibility at the feet of only one of the sexes, you now oppress that sex. It is men who are now oppressed because they bear disproportionate responsibility, but only in a best-case scenario, half the authority. In reality, it's actually much less than half. But let's go on.
My work now is to reverse that damage.
It has done a lot of damage, but you'll see she doesn't really give a shit about the damage it's done to men, it's the damage it's done to women, hence the gynocentric aspect of this traditionalism. When traditionalists talk about how feminism is damaging the society, they're concerned with how it's damaging women, not how it's damaging men. They could give a shit what happens to men. This is why it's just the other side of the coin of feminism. It's only interested with how women are affected.
So in that spirit, let's talk about the first pillar of this new feminism: dignity. Dignity is at the core of what feminism should always be about. Dignity means that a woman should be able to freely choose her own path in life. That's what feminism once held.
Assuming the woman's going to pay for that path she's freely choosing. If a man wants to freely choose to pursue his dream to be a rock musician, he assumes responsibility for that path. If he makes it, he's going to be rich and famous. If he doesn't make it, he's going to be homeless. Sucking dicks at truck stops, who knows? But women, they want this freedom, but they don't want any of the responsibility. They want to choose how they want to live their life, but they want the government and men to backstop their choices. So if things don't work out, they could just run to the government or a man who will support them, be their plan B or plan C. As long as they're not responsible for the consequences of their choices, they want to have all the choice in the world, but they don't want to bear any of the responsibility.
But does it still? Ask almost any female college student today what she aspires to be, and she'll list any number of career choices. The one she won't list is wife and mother.
It's so obvious why that is. If all you want to be, if your aspiring career choice is a wife and mother, why are you in college? You don't need a college education to be a wife and mother. In a best case scenario, assuming you're paying your own way, or you've got a scholarship, you're taking the seat of a man who desperately needs that education to provide for his family, or whatever. You're just wasting that seat because you don't need that college education to be a wife and mother. And in a worst case scenario, you're racking up tens of thousands of dollars of student loan debt that you're now going to throw on the back of your future husband to pay off for an education you don't need and that you'll never use. Because the only reason you went to college was to be around men who had a good financial future, went into tens of thousands of dollars of debt in order to land a catch. And now you throw those things on his back like, oh honey, pay off my student loan so I can stay home and raise the kids. And now he's got all this debt for an education he didn't sign up for, that you signed up for just to meet him. If you want to meet college guys, go to a college town and go hang out at the bars and restaurants. You don't need a college education to work at Starbucks or Barnes & Noble or wherever the fuck college kids like to hang out. You could figure it out without going into tens of thousands of dollars of debt. So if you're in college and your aspirations for a career are a wife and mother, you deserve to be ridiculed because you're wasting everyone's time and your future husband's money if you're getting into debt.
In fact, any time someone has the temerity to suggest that a woman might want to look for a husband while in college, as a very successful Princeton grad recently did in a letter to the school's newspaper, feminists go nuts. A new feminism will value and respect all responsible choices.
It's not responsible to go to college to meet a future husband. It's not responsible. It's completely irresponsible. Again, you're wasting the seat that a man needs to go to college. Men are being turned down for college. Doors are being closed in men's faces so that more women can go to college, so they can be wives and mothers. What a waste of our resources. What a waste of our time. What a waste of our money. That is not a responsible choice.
And while we're talking about dignity, I can't think of anything less dignified for women than the feminist belief that in the sexual arena, women are like and therefore ought to act like men. Is this what the truly liberated woman wants? To have casual sex and think nothing of it like men do? That's what feminism aspires to?
Notice the subtle dig. This is what's hilarious about these traditionalist anti-feminist women. Look at the dig against men. Do you want to be like men, just to have casual sex and think nothing of it like men? You can hear the hatred of men, the resentment, the misandry in this anti-feminist, traditional Nawalt woman.
Sad to say, the answer has too often been yes. So let's add this up. Feminism has downplayed the desire for women to have a family, while at the same time hyping the rewards of career and casual sex. Not exactly a recipe for success or happiness.
Feminism is essentially about penis envy. It is about wanting to be like men. They don't want the responsibilities of being a man. They want all the benefits. And they don't understand that biology made men and women differently. So feminists are dumb. They are wrong. You have all the hallmarks of a feminist. You're just a little bit more practical about the realities of biological differences, sexual dimorphism, and division of labor. which makes you better than a feminist, but you're not my ally. You're just as gynocentric. You want us to protect and provide for you for little to no benefit, and you want all the protections on your side so that you're protected if a man divorces you or cheats on you or leaves you, while leaving absolutely no protections for the man if the woman decides to cheat on him, leave him. Because women are just so wonderful, they would never do that. It's the men that women need to be protected from. It's not men that need to be protected from hypergamous women. In fact, what is hypergamy? That's a myth. MGTOW just made that shit up.
The second pillar of a new feminism is the word no. It's very much tied in with the first pillar. Throughout history, women have made great use of the word no.
No.
Of course, many times women said yes when they should have said no, and that's the basis of more than a few classic stories and novels. But this was the exception, not the rule. There is great power in that word no, and women, for the most part, knew how to wield that power. But in the last few decades, they've lost it, and the consequences have been catastrophic. Women who fought not to be treated as sex objects have become more objectified than ever. You see it everywhere, in music videos, on billboards, in the hookup culture on campuses. And now we have the tawdry spectacle of teenage girls sexually pursuing teenage boys the way boys pursued girls. How did this happen? Because feminism began to advocate that women should behave like men. Whatever men did and however they did it, that's what women should do.
This is just sex-negative feminism. There's nothing original here. This isn't anti-feminist. This is sex-negative feminism. A lot of third wave and fourth wave mainstream feminists advocate this same exact position. This isn't new feminism. This is just sex-negative feminism. The way this benefits women is it raises the price of pussy. See, in order to get men to sign up for these terrible deals that don't benefit them, they have to take advantage of their higher sex drive. So if women aren't going to have casual sex with them, well, maybe they'll put a ring on it just to get their dick wet. This is what traditionally worked for women. It allowed them to get wonderful deals from these men who have such a high sex drive. But also notice that she repeats the misandry of the previous section, where she's talking about women acting like men, because men are the problem, and when women act like men, that's bad. In fact, men shouldn't even act like men, and we'll get to that in a minute, but just notice the subtle digs at men, the subtle misandry. This is gynocentric traditionalism.
Feminists were angry at men, but they wanted to be like them at the same time. No wonder our society is so confused. Women are robbing themselves of the ability to say no. The solution is to take that power back. This is especially true for young women.
No.
Saying no means I will not be defined by anyone else, not by feminists, and not by men's sexual desires. That is female power.
You know, men need to rediscover the word no as well. When a woman's like, I want to vote, I'm equal, I can do everything a man can do with heels on, a man just needs to say no. Women saying no to being sex objects. Your function in life is to be sex objects. It's not feminism. Feminism didn't do that to you. Women did that to themselves because they know that's what men want. Men want a sex object, and they're willing to trade decades of income in order to acquire that sex object. So women make themselves into sex objects in order to acquire that lifetime of income. Women are just bitter about it when they don't win. When they make themselves the sex object, and the men that they want go for the better looking sex object. They want to combat that with having a good personality or whatever. We're not interested in your personality. We're not interested in your career. We are interested in your tits and your vagina and your ability to have a baby. That is what we're interested in. And I know you hate it. I can hear it in your voice. You hate that men value women almost exclusively based on their sexuality. But that's nature. Just like you almost exclusively judge men based on their ability to provide resources and utility to you, we judge you based on your physical attributes to provide to us, namely to keep our dicks nice and moisturized. But you go ahead and say no, and we'll go ahead and say no, and we'll see who comes out on top at the end of that scenario. Because we need you a lot less than you need us.
This is a good segue to my third pillar of a new feminism, men. It is easy for feminists to forget this, but it was men who gave up their monopoly on political power and gave women the right to vote.
Fucking cucks. Fucking cucks. You fucked it up. You fucked it up.
Men who invented birth control, the refrigerator, the washing machine, and so many other devices that liberated women.
Coming soon, the artificial womb, sex robots, and so many other devices that liberated women and made them obsolete.
And men are different from women. Academics like to speculate that men and women are basically the same, that they're only socialized differently. But as George Orwell famously noted, that's an idea that only an intellectual would be foolish enough to believe.
And that is the difference between traditionalists and feminists. Traditionalists at least understand that men and women are physically different. They understand the reality of sexual dimorphism and the reality of gender roles. So they're slightly better. They're a little bit more realistic in their bullshit, but they're just as gynocentric. That's the main message. They are wholly gynocentric. They don't give a shit about you. They don't give a shit about men. They're just feminists that don't deny reality. They still want a self-serving deal. They're still gynocentric, but they don't deny reality like most feminists do.
Moreover, the sexes need each other.
Okay, the sexes need each other. I agree that women need men. Without men, women would literally die. All these women were like, I make my own money. Yet you make your money based on a society built and maintained by men, probably supported by government programs paid for with the taxes of men. Without any of these things, women would literally die. Men can get by very fine on their own. They may die out within a generation, but they won't die in the next year because they don't have any food or shelter or a disease wipes them all out like it would with women. But let's hear about how much men just need women, and not for sex. Oh, not for sex, mind you. How a woman makes a man's life objectively better. Or at least provides a net benefit in order to justify everything a man brings to the table, a lifetime of income and protection and utility. What does a woman bring to the table that makes a man's life better? Go.
For example, women civilize men. It's what we're supposed to do.
Women civilize men. And notice the imagery. A messed up haircut with a shirt that says fuck off, wearing shorts. And then the woman magically gives him a clean haircut and a suit. What's really going on? This is a woman basically crushing the man's dreams, making him give up his hobbies, making him get a real job, selling his sports car or his guitar, whatever makes him happy in life. Sacrificing all that to get a real job and support her and her children. This is how she defines civilization. This is how she defines civilized men. Men who serve women and give up their dreams. And she paints this as a positive. This is what women do. This helps men. Don't you want to work your ass to death? Don't you want to give up on all your dreams? Don't you want to give up on anything that makes you happy and serve a woman? Earn all this money that the woman can spend just so you can have some kids that you barely see because you're working so much? Doesn't that make your life better? Oh, it doesn't? You're miserable? Well, fuck you. You're not civilized. Ask a married man and ask him how much his life is better because she's doing that to him. Civilizing men through nagging, crushing their dreams, and turning them into a workhorse to serve her and her children. Fuck off.
But in order to accomplish this critical task, we must preserve our dignity, not be afraid to use the word no, and see men as partners, not as competitors, let alone oppressors.
Men and women are not partners. They never have been, they never will be. Men bring far more to the table than the woman. Now, she could be a silent partner. In business, if two partners come together and one brings vastly more resources to the partnership, one partner's paying 90%, one partner's paying 10%, that partner may have a 10% stake in the company, but the one with 90% has all the power. He has 9 times more equity in the company, thus he has 9 times more say in what the company does. So if the person with 10% wants, I want 50-50 say in this company, even though I'm only bringing 10% of the resources to the company, the partner bringing 90% can tell him to eat shit and possibly buy out his 10% and then tell him to fuck off. Now you do have silent partners who invest in the company and shut the fuck up. They put their money in the company, they enjoy the dividends as partners, but they don't have a say in how the company is run. They're just silent partners, hence the name. Think of what a family needs to function. A woman does not bring 50% of those things to the equation. This does not make her a partner in the 50-50 sense. This is why equal rights is horseshit. because it oppresses the man who brings far more to the table. He still brings far more to the table, but now he gets less authority commensurate with his responsibility. These MRAs and anti-feminists, they just want a slightly better deal. They're so tired of modern feminism's female oppression of men, the overt hatred of men, that they're willing to settle for the gynocentric, oh, let's be equal, guys, even though you're still doing a lot more. It's not a fair deal, it's just a slightly less shitty deal. I feel like William Wallace in Braveheart.
You're so concerned with squabbling for the scraps from Longshank's table that you've missed your God-given right to something better.
That's the way to a new feminism, and the way to a better world for both sexes.
Not for men. Not for men. It's a better world for women because these anti-feminist traditionalist women can think a little bit better than the feminists can. They see that feminism leads to cultural suicide. They want a better world for women. But they want to make sure that men stay on that plantation, keep making those shitty deals. They don't want women's rights being rolled back to where they should be. They want a better world for women. And they want a slightly less shitty deal for men in order to perpetuate a world better for women. Welcome to Gynocentrism.
I'm Tammy Bruce for Prager University.
And I'm Turd Flinging Monkey. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.